1.1, the geography of Massac County. So this lesson is all about Massac County and how geography has played a shaping role in our history. Now, this entire year, we're going to be talking about primarily American history, but I do a lot of emphasis on Massac County history. Pretty much anytime I have the ability to throw some Massac County history into a lesson, I'm going to do it. So this is going to be kind of like an introduction. So if you're not that familiar with Massac County history, or if you are unfamiliar with our physical geography, this is going to be a good starting point for you. So Massac County is on the southern tip of Illinois, and Massac County is quite a bit different than the rest of the state of Illinois. If you ever drive up further north, you'll notice that Massac County is kind of hilly, especially if you get up to the Jefferson area, where Jefferson School is, or further north, or especially down towards the river bottoms. You'll know there's a lot of hills and cliffs and things of that nature. And it's really a quite beautiful area of land. Now, if you go further north in Illinois, you'll notice that Illinois is actually quite flat. And so you go from a rather hilly area that stretches all the way from Massac County up through Johnson County, actually kind of all the way up through Marion, Illinois. The ground is very hilly. There's lots of elevation changes. I kind of find it very beautiful. But as soon as you get north of Marion, Illinois, if you were going to go to like a Cardinals game, or you're driving up to Chicago or Springfield, you'll notice that Illinois is actually really flat and, to be quite honest, kind of boring to look at. And so farming has dominated a lot of our central and northern parts of Illinois. And a lot of that has to do with the last ice age. Roughly about 10,000 years ago, we had an ice age where the global temperatures of our planet were quite a bit lower, and it had some pretty drastic effects on our planet. One of the most notable things would be the formations of very thick glaciers. These glaciers formed in the Arctic Circle around the Arctic Ocean, and they grew down over North America. They also grew down over Asia and Europe as well, so it was kind of like a cap. And in this video that's playing now, you're actually seeing kind of like the world from the North Pole. And on the right-hand side, you can see the North American continent. You'll notice that the coastlines change a little bit because the water levels in the ocean change, and that can be a little bit disorienting if you're not used to seeing those kind of maps. But you'll notice how the white grows and ebbs and flows over the years. And so as the ice sheets and these glaciers grow, they push rocks and dirt, and they cause melting, which creates riverbeds and all kinds of erosion. And so North America, in a lot of ways, was almost kind of like carved by these glaciers, especially in the northern parts. Ironically, all these glaciers, they stopped just right about north of Massac County, and right about where I was talking about, north of Harrisburg and Marion and all that. And so the glaciers, for the most part, push down all these rocks and all this debris. And so right along the edge of Harrisburg and Marion, you start hitting lots of hills. And these are hills that were not shaven and carved away by these glaciers. And so, funny enough, these glaciers kind of never really touched Massac County in any seriously huge way. But just north of us, they were very much there. Now, just keep in mind, these glaciers are enormous. They're not like small little sheets of ice like a snowstorm. We're talking sheets of ice that are several dozen, hundreds of feet thick. And the further north you go, they become absolutely enormous. So ancient Illinois' climate, during the last ice age, maybe shortly after that, it wouldn't have been uncommon to see woolly rhinoceros, woolly mammoths, mastodons roaming this area. There's plenty of evidence throughout Illinois of mastodon and mammoth teeth. So we do know that they were here. We know that they were hunted by early humans. And so it's kind of an amazing thing to realize that at one point in Massac County, a common sight would have been the woolly mammoth and the mastodon and a great woolly rhinoceros. And so the climate was a lot different. We had different fauna, different plants all over the place. And it was just drastically different than what we would see today as far as large animals go. Massac County would have probably been similar to Alaska or Canada. Maybe not so much the far north, but the lower end of Alaska or some regions in Canada that do get quite cold. Maybe not completely frozen over, but they do get quite cold. winters would have been very harsh, and summers would have been, I guess you could say, brisk, not necessarily hot at all. You might have a warm day or there, but I would imagine that a day where you have 70-degree weather would be quite warm. So ancient Illinois climate, a little bit kind of a continuation of this, is as those glaciers melted, they caused all kinds of changes to our riverbed and our river system, especially the Mississippi River, which I'm not going to get too much into, but the Mississippi River from Cape Girardeau up through St. Louis and a little bit further north changed drastically during this glacial period. So it's a little hard to get into in this lesson, but the Mississippi River changed course on numerous occasions, actually would lead to the creation of the Illinois River further north and several creeks up there as well. Now, 1,000 years ago, ironically, the Ohio River actually flowed much further north than it does now. So today, when we think about the Ohio River, we think of the river that flows just south of Brookport, just south of Metropolis, just south of Joppa. But we often don't think about the Ohio River being a river that flowed on the northern end of Massac County. And so today, the old Ohio Riverbed makes up Bay Creek near the town of Big Bay and Cache River. Now, Cache River flows mainly from the northwesternmost edge of Massac County into Pulaski County, and then through past Shawnee Community College, Olin, and then on down to Mound City area, just kind of in that area in Alexander County. And so we don't necessarily think about those creeks all the time, but that's actually the old Ohio River bed. Now, if you've ever driven north in Massac County on your way up to Vienna, especially if you took 145 or if you took North Avenue up through the northern parts of Massac County into Johnson County and even into Polk County, you'll notice that all of a sudden there's this really flat stretch just north of Round Knob. And when you get there, you get that flat stretch. And what you're driving through there is actually the old Ohio Riverbed. And then eventually you hit hills and cliffs, and then eventually get into Vienna. You get some hilly areas and then you get into Vienna. Well, that low area that you hit right before those hills is the old Ohio Riverbed. That's probably some of the best farming land in Massac County. It is wasn't always. In the past, it actually was this wet, marshy, swampy wetlands that we drained over a period of probably 50 years or more. There was a lot of cypress trees up there, good lumber, and so early settlers would cut down those trees and then dig ditches and channels and eventually get that water to flow into Bay Creek and Cache River, thereby draining the old Ohio Riverbed area and that wetlands. It wasn't a river then, though, but it was just that wetlands, and eventually made it some of the best farming land in Massac County. A lot of pumpkins grow up there because of the sandy soil and the deposits that are left behind, but it's also good for grains, corn, soybeans, and several other types of cash crops. Now, the downside of this is that it's also prone to flooding, and that's why sometimes there's this weird phenomenon where whenever there's some pretty heavy flooding in Massac County in our area, we have flooding to the south near Metropolis and Brookport area, down by the bottoms towards just south of Unity School. And then you'll also have flooding, ironically, to the north, kind of between Vienna and Metropolis and Brookport. And that's mainly because the flooding that takes place due to not only Bay Creek and also Cache River and several other creeks, but then also because of the old Ohio River bed area. You don't see as much flooding up in there because we've established a series of levees all over the place through Southern Illinois. And so there's less flooding and there's less damage done due to flooding, but it still does happen from time to time. Probably the last big flood that flooded the old Ohio Riverbed north of in the northern end of Massac County would have been the flood of 1937, which we will talk about this year. And that essentially turned Massac County kind of like into an island whenever that flood took place. It was kind of a wild ride for a lot of local residents because, I mean, basically it cut off most of Massac County from the northern end of the state. And then due to the Ohio River, a lot of territory was cut off to our south, with a few exceptions to that. And on this map right here, you actually can see from satellite imagery. So it's kind of hard to see from like old cartoony type maps like this. But if you look at satellite imagery, just go to Google Earth, look in Massac County, or you can open the slide and see the same image. There's actually, you kind of see on the map here where the land kind of swirls, almost curves right underneath, right through Big Bay, right underneath New Columbia, and then just north of Mermet over where 45 and 169 are. That right there is Big Bay, or Bay Creek, I should say, that goes off into Polk County. And then you have Cache River that goes north of Mermet into Pulaski County right over here. It kind of follows 169 in a way. And so that right there is the old Ohio riverbed. It's a still carved our land, and you can see it from space, and you can see it from our satellites in space. Now, if you were to look at this image blown out, you'd actually see this curving snake-like pattern of the soil go all the way through Southern Illinois, and that's where the old Ohio riverbed used to be. It has since shifted further south to its present location, and it probably won't move much more in the modern history just because of our extensive networks of levees and whatnot. Also, sometimes in the Ohio River, you'll see ships that are dredging, that are actually digging out the Ohio River channel. That actually helps keep the river flowing in a specific course as well. And dredging is basically where they, for lack of a better term, they kind of vacuum and dig the soil off the bottom of the Ohio riverbed, making it deeper for barges. Now, in the 1800s, was that wetlands area just south of New Columbia, north of Round Knob, that they were kind of draining and whatnot, and making this good farmland. Now, Illinois wasn't a state, obviously, whenever the American Revolution was fought, and so there's not much said about Massac County before that period because it wasn't a thing yet. Massac County was actually originally part of Randolph County. So was Johnson County, Polk County, Pulaski, Union, Gallatin, Saline County. Basically, most of your Southern Illinois county, well, all of your Southern Illinois counties were part of Randolph County. And then as more and more settlers came, these counties started breaking apart and creating new county seats so that they could better manage the people. In 1812, Johnson County was formed. Now, Johnson County actually included all of Polk County, Johnson County, and actually for a period of time it included all of Union, Alexander, and then Polk County, Union, and Alexander County were split off. Polk County was split off in 1816, just 4 years after Johnson County was formed. 2 years later, Illinois became a state in 1818. Now, Massac County's formation is actually a really, really good story, and we're going to get a lot more into this later on in the year. But actually, there was several years of lawlessness and raiding and all kinds of conflict, mainly from the Cave and Rock area in Hardin County, northern into Polk County. There were several groups of river pirates and horse thieves that were raiding in the area around Massac County. Of course, Massac County wasn't there yet. It was just part of Johnson and Polk County. And it got so bad that actually Massac County would raise kind of its own private law enforcement kind of army, I guess you could say. And there was actually a little, almost like a little war fought between this group known as the Regulators versus the Flatheads. The Flatheads being the antagonists of the story, or the bad guys, horse thieves and pirates and brigands from Polk County, Hardin County, Saline County, and Gallatin County area. And so Massac County kind of got fed up with it. We put together this crew of regulators and eventually realized that Johnson County and Polk County are not really capable of managing all the territory, mainly due to the geography. And so by February 8th, 1843, Massac County was officially organized to bring stability and law and order to the area. Now, today, Massac County is roughly 242 square miles. We're actually one of the smaller counties in Illinois. We're not the smallest, but we're one of the smallest counties in Illinois. And it's estimated that around 13,772 people live in Massac County. Of course, that number changes all the time. Used to be a little bit higher. In 2010, it was closer to 15,000 people. So we've lost several hundred people, probably mainly due to new jobs and a lot of young people now going off to college and getting jobs in urban areas. And this is a trend that has been going on for several decades. We're probably getting to a point where that trend will start slowing down, or at least hopefully it starts slowing down, just because I guess you due to more economic forces playing out in the country now. I think there's a lot of benefits to living in the rural areas, and land values are changing. And so I think that number is going to start stabilizing more as we go forward. There's right around 7,000 homes and apartments in Massac County, so we do have a decent amount of housing in this area. Probably not going to go away anytime soon, since we do have a lower population now. The downside is that does tend to drive property values down a little bit, and so homes are not worth as much. Most homes still gain in value, but they don't gain as fast, I guess you could say. Now, the average income per household. Now, this is not per individual, so this is not average individual income, but the average household income. So if you take a home in Massac County, if you take any random home, typically the income of the adults in that home is around $46,000. That's the average. Obviously, you're going to have people several $1,000 higher than that, and you're going to have a larger number of people lower than that. Just kind of depends. This is just an average, but $46,000, which is lower than most of the state of Illinois. But then again, our cost of living in Massac County is lower as well. Now, our major industries are agriculture and healthcare. Agriculture has been our major industry since our founding. It was the reason why we were founded as a county. Healthcare is a quickly new and growing field. Over the last couple of decades, healthcare has been growing, and that's mainly because the population of not only Massac County but the entire country is getting older. There are more people who are older than younger, and older people typically need more health care as well as nursing. And so you're seeing more nursing homes getting built. You're seeing more doctors' offices being built. And so as a result, healthcare is a growing field. And so a lot of students here in Massac County also go into the medical field because it is not only a good paying job, but it's a stable job and one that provides a lot of flexibility on where you want to live. And then probably I kind of had to lump this all together, but businesses involved in trade along the Ohio River. And there's numerous. We have Holt Recycling, we have shipping industries, we have EEI, we have the coal terminal, we have Lafarge Concrete, and then not to mention all the farmers who use the Ohio River to ship grain and other food through the area. We also have the Brookport Locks and Dam. So we have lots of industries here in Massac County that are geared towards the river. There's several other business types out there. Probably one that I should note is that we also have a strong connection to our natural resources. We have Shawnee National Forest, we have Mermet Lake, and we have we also have the Kincaid Mounds down towards Unity School. And so we have a lot of natural beauty in this area that draw a lot of people as well, hunting and things of that nature. So we do have a pretty robust economy centered on those industries, and hopefully we'll start seeing more industries come to Massac County as well. So I just want to give you guys kind of a little rundown of Massac County, our brief history, and kind of the geography that has shaped us. Massac County has a rich, vibrant history of which we're going to dig into a little bit deeper. So don't think for a second that Massac County is a boring place to live. I know a lot of us were raised in Massac County, and sometimes we get little blinders on. We don't see the beauty around us and what's amazing around us. And so this year, hopefully, I can peel back that lens a little bit so that you can kind of see Massac County through new eyes founded in our history and culture, for better or for worse. So thanks, guys.